Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoteric on a continuing series, Translation Theater, where I take a look at some of my favorite and most important fan translations of all times. And today we're taking a look at Front Mission Gun Hazard. And this is a spectacular action JRPG that was a big hit in Japan, selling like 500,000 copies upon release. And it was released on the Wii Japanese Virtual Console as well, but it never came to America or Europe, and we never had an English translation until a fan translation patch came out some years back. And while you can totally play this game without the English and kind of poke through it, so much of what's going on here is the intricate story, especially for a 16-bit game, and that without the fan translation you're really missing so much of what's going on here. Because basically right at the beginning there is a coup in process, and your job throughout the entire game is to protect and help the president of this nation get back into power and to stop the coup. And you would never understand any of that if you didn't have the English translation. But outside of the fact that this game comes alive with this story, it is absolutely a spectacular game in and of itself as far as the graphics and gameplay are concerned, because this game just looks absolutely spectacular. It's one of my favorite games visually on the Super Nintendo. This starts looking in spots closer to a PlayStation 1 or Sega Saturn game as far as the 2D sprite work and backgrounds are concerned, as far as I think. But you'll see here we are guarding the president, and this is just the prologue stage, and for most of the game the president's going to be driving this big rig truck, which is in of itself kind of funny of a look, but also just really interesting. And that's why this translation is so interesting, because this franchise has come to the US in certain games in English, but this is the second game in the series, and it's really an interesting story and really gives you a lot of background details of all of the different characters and their motivations. And like I said, you could totally poke through this game and play it in Japanese and get a lot of interesting gameplay elements and see the really nice visuals, but without the English menu you really don't have much of a clue what's going on, and navigating the world map and buying power-ups is very difficult, because upgrading your character and the mech that they're in is half of this game. Because you'll see here at the beginning we get this little menu where we can outfit the truck, we can outfit Albert, our player character, and do a lot of other things. And trust me, in Japanese this is highly difficult. But right into stage one, I'm just showing you guys the beginning of this game because it is pretty long and very interesting. I just love how it looks. The scale of the sprites and the backgrounds give you a really awesome sense of depth. This really does look like an urban center as far as the future is concerned. It kind of has a little bit of like a Tim Burton Batman Returns feel to Gotham, except in the daytime hours. And that's a strange association, but it is just what I see. And you'll see here in some stages you are guiding the president along in that truck, so you can't let him get too far behind because enemies could come and attack. So you really need to deal with the resource management as far as how far the president is back. Not every stage is an escort mission, but compared to like the PlayStation 1 era games with escort missions, this is much easier to deal with. And you'll see here we have a little mini boss fight, and we need to make sure we don't run out of life and make sure the president doesn't run out either, or else if either of those conditions are met, you die or the president dies, you fail the mission and you die. You'll see here that we do get skill points. That allows us to get upgrades of levels, unlocks new weapons, and they're all really important things to getting further into this game, because it does get much more difficult as we go along. And you'll see here, this is why having English is so important, because the Wanzer, our mech, upgrading it, if this is all in Japanese, it becomes extremely difficult. You might be able to poke through it with a walkthrough, but having this all in English is just spectacular, and having all of the story in English is the best part, because this is a great story. It sets the tone for the world. It does a lot of world building. It gives you a lot of different things that you would never understand unless you were a native Japanese speaker, and it makes a good game absolutely great and spectacular. The story is what brings this game to life. But as good as the game looks, as great as the translation is, as fun as the gameplay is, the soundtrack is quite interesting and very operatic for what it's doing in the game. So go ahead and listen for like 45 seconds to a minute, and I'll come back and tell you why Front Mission Gun Hazard is just such an incredible game. But enjoy! I just love the soundtrack. The only thing this game does wrong, in my opinion, is it commits the cardinal sin of having a low health warning beeper. I absolutely hate that in games. It drives me nuts. If someone modded that out, I would say this would be a perfect 10 out of 10 game. But it's really a very minor complaint of an overall absolutely spectacular package. And I just love the progression in this game. You're constantly leveling up. You're constantly getting new weapons that are going to keep you slightly more powerful than your opponents or right on the same par with them. You never feel like you're overpowered in this game, but if you don't play your cards right with your power-ups, you can get to a situation where you realize you don't really have the right outfit for that particular level, and you need to go back and re-outfit your mech or Wanzer to get to the point where you are evenly matched. And I love playing around with that. It kind of feels like the side-scrolling action RPG equivalent of a Mega Man game, where the special power-ups you have are good or worse against different robot masters depending on who you're playing as. I will say every once in a while the game gets a little bit confusing, because you'll see here you have to get a running jump to get over that barrier. So if you find yourself stuck in a certain level, just kind of take a peek around and see what architectural details there are that you could use to progress a little bit further, because I can guarantee you, you're never going to get stuck, but every once in a while you may need to look around and think, how do I want to move forward in the game? But I love that because it feels like an RPG where you're not quite 100% sure maybe what the best thing to do next is. It gives you a little bit of wiggle room. And of course, because it is quite a long game, it gives you full save states as well in the game. I am playing this on the Mr. FPGA, but if you're playing it on an emulator, you'd have save states anyway. And if you're playing it on a flash cart, you can save as well. And definitely don't forget to save, because it doesn't prompt you to do so. You can totally just end up playing this game for 2 hours and forgetting to save when you feel like stopping. So just heads up, save often, do it all the time, or else you too may end up losing 3 hours of progress. I'm not saying it happened to me, and I'm not saying it didn't happen to me. But short of that, this game, again, is just so much fun. I love all the character designs, all the different mechs, some being larger than you, some being smaller than you. And I will say the sprites have a lot of frames of animation in them. When that mech punches out, it's not just 2 or 3 frames of animation. It feels like there's maybe 8 or 10 in there. You can tell that the artists and developers loved this series and wanted to put as much detail in it as possible, because the world really does feel alive as far as a 16-bit game is concerned. I love the colors, I love the clouds in the background, all the different architectural details, and just how detailed all the different sprites are. It's just a total package for me. The graphics are outstanding, the gameplay is excellent, the story when you have it in English is also amazing, and it is long and fun and complex and gives you a lot of gameplay for your money. And if you're playing the translation, that money is zero, so you really are getting a ton of value out of it. You can totally buy an aftermarket cartridge of this translated. You can play it on the Mr. FPGA like I am playing it here, and now we're going to this army base and continuing along. But that is Front Mission Gun Hazard. I can't recommend this game enough. Like I said earlier, you could totally play it without the English, but getting all of this story is really what you want out of the game. But you tell me down below, have you played this game before in English? What Front Mission is your favorite game? I love chatting with you guys. I will be back next Tuesday with an episode in the Translation Theater series, and I'll have videos throughout the week as well. But I can't recommend this game enough. If you've never played it, if you've never heard of it, after this video is over, download it, give it a shot, and tell me what you think in the comments. Short of that, I will see you guys next time, but like I said, play this game, trust me. Bye-bye.